Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Riverside soccer coach Kieran Harris. Joining us is his Rams are 4-0, number one in the Washington Post, just flying high. Coach, congratulations on the great start to your season, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I can't say enough about this team and having this opportunity and the stuff that comes with it. So it's great.
Yeah, well, coach, I've gotten into Premier League soccer the last 10, 15 years, like everybody else. And Kieran is a very popular soccer name because it's a British name, and so you have a lot of soccer players named Kieran. I
Yes.
just find it curious. Your class of '99 at Parkview, played at Ferrum, played fullback and striker at Parkview. But I don't know what you played at Ferrum, but anyway, your parents had some foresight to name give you a proper soccer name like Kieran.
Yeah, my mom's actually Irish. She was born there, raised there,
Oh,
moved over when she was in her 20s when she met my dad. So I have a brother named Dermot and a sister named Breed. My son's name is Declan, just after my
uh,
dad. So it runs like we all have good names.
yeah,
So it's pretty nice. It was rare at one point, but now it's very popular.
it's very those names are all popular, especially in the soccer community. You hear those
Yeah,
names
yeah.
all the time, so it's interesting. Well, Coach, a little bit about Riverside. You went to Parkview, as I said, and when you went to Parkview, there wasn't that many high schools in Loudoun County. I believe Potomac Falls was the fifth. I went to Robinson, class of '84. There was only four schools here. And as a referee in basketball, I would travel to Loudoun County, Loudoun Valley, Parkview, and Broad Run. But now we have, I guess, 18 high schools in Loudoun County. When I drive to Riverside, I live in Lansdowne. I drop my daughter off at school. I see all these state titles on the building, and I've talked to some coaches. I've interviewed some coaches there. Coach Warak for the lacrosse is one of them. Why all the success at Riverside? What makes Riverside such a great sports high school?
Uh, it's really hard to explain. It's the neighborhood that people want to move into, and it's that area that um just where all the talent is. I mean, and it goes in cycles. Like some schools have it, like Indy had it a couple years ago. They're a very, very tough school, very pop school when they first started, because that's just where the schools are pulling from. Um, and kids chose to go to those schools, and kids chose to go to our schools. Um, yeah, it's been nice, been being blessed with a lot of talent in the past couple of years. So I, yeah, it's hard to explain, but we've started off strong and we've continued to be stronger in all sports, which is a good thing for the school. I think everybody buys into just wanting to play for Riverside.
Yeah, it seems like a great school. How would you characterize the kids at Riverside? Are they much different than the kids at Parkview, or how would you characterize the demographic that goes here?
Yeah, I would say very, very different. Very diverse. I haven't met like we haven't had a whole lot of troublesome kids, or even just like kids in general. Like it just seems like everybody gets along. There's no issues. Like there's no super cliques or this or that. Everybody just seems to enjoy, like I said, just being at school and supporting the school. They have a lot of support for almost all sports, all programs at the school.
Yeah. Well, coaching soccer at Parkview would be much different than coaching Riverside. I guess Parkview is probably a lot like the high schools in Fairfax County with a high Latino population, which is great for
Yes,
soccer. Some other sports, sometimes the Latinos don't play quite as much as soccer, but your demographic would be different at Parkview than would be at Riverside. Is that correct?
yes, yeah, 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 totally. Yeah, like Parkview, even with all the other programs having trouble finding kids, the soccer program always had almost 100, 120 kids come out. Everybody wants to come out and play soccer, and it's like I said, it's that culture over there. Where Latinos are that heavy in soccer, right? And um, just that, like even at Indy, they had 120 kids, 130 kids come out. We had 65, 70 come out for us, because I think around here there's more sports that people can be involved in. Like I said, lacrosse, basketball, football is very popular out here, and baseball too. So that school just has the one. Parkview is, even when it was going down, it was known as a soccer powerhouse, because the kids they pulled in, the kids they bought into that program. It's a very nice program, um, and they're always a tough team to play when we played them. So that's kind of what I guess would be the difference between that.
Yeah. Now, in Loudoun, coach, do all the best players go out for the high school team, or it depends on the school and the program?
Depends on the school and program. There's a couple kids that play in the highest level, which is the MLS Next program, that they're kind of bind to a contract where they can't play any other sports, can't play high school. Um, but then you kind of get them when they're senior year, when they get to that level where they already committed and they've already done their sign that deal and they're ready to move on. They tend to drift towards playing high school to have some fun. I know we had one kid last year do it. Um, his coach let him because he knew he's already committed to it was Campbell, Andrew Hilton. He played for us, and he said it was the best time he's ever had. The most fun he's ever had playing soccer was playing for the high school, just because it's a different environment.
Yeah, I talked to I have a coaches panel. I don't know if you've seen it before. We talk a lot about this issue, how we're denying kids maybe their best soccer experience. It's not that the soccer is the best always, but the fact that you can play with your classmates in front of your crowd, and Riverside is just an amazing stadium. Not to not be able to play for the Rams, as they say, roll side, it would be disappointing. We can go into your roster more in depth, but did you have some kids bounce back to you this year that hadn't played? Because I noticed. You may have noticed that I interviewed DT last year. Great kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to him. I'm glad he's doing so well at Binghamton. But did you get some kids bounce back to you this year that weren't able to play in years before?
No, so I think Andrew was the only one in DT when he came back. Was the other one. Most of all of them are playing on that ECNL level, so they're all out. This is their off season, so they can join us and play the high school. And the club allows them to play high school. I've got picked up one more player from he transferred in, moved into the area. Damon Burnley from Broad Run, who's a 6'5" center back. So it's a nice little pickup for us.
Speaking of proper English
Yeah, right.
players.
Yeah, yeah. So he's kind of a good addition to this team. And all while like I said, with all the talent we have, he mixed in right away. He knew most of the kids because they played together at that club level. So
Yeah, that's one thing about our sports is that our 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" kids, the athletes, historically didn't necessarily play soccer here. We had a lot of great athletes playing soccer, but those tall kids would play American football or they'd play basketball or whatever. And I remember, I don't know if you saw the Herndon team last year, but they had these two 6'5" center backs. You're beginning to see more and more of these tall kids playing soccer, and sometimes it's some tall kids in some sports, you're great right away because you have a huge advantage being tall.
yes,
Soccer is not one of those sports. They have to develop the technique and all the other things to really, enjoy the sport. But it's great to see these tall kids playing soccer now.
yeah, it's
We're talking about tall kids. The tall kids are in America now, are 6'5" kids, like their transfer from Broad Run, are actually moving towards soccer now. And those are the kids you want in the center of your defense, maybe even a striker, definitely a goalie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's the perk. It's nice that these kids are because, like you said, traditionally most of the highest like the soccer players are gonna be like 5'10", 6 foot, maybe shorter. And we got a lot of that on our team, but we have that good mix of height. And when you watch from here, like you look at those guys and they just tower over everybody. And there are, like you said, center backs, and you have some strikers that are up there 6 foot, 6'7", something like that. And it's good to see that I think it's the culture that is around this one, and you have everybody playing soccer, and soccer is kind of a very, very popular sport, and especially in this area where they kind of gravitate towards that. And like I said, they have to balance themselves out. You're being that tall, you got to figure out something, and you got to figure out your feet, your balance, your core. It takes maybe a little longer to understand movement off the ball, movement with the ball, and using your big body, your big frame. So I think it's pretty awesome that we are getting that height in that sport. I think it deserves it. Because
Yeah.
you
Well,
get those players.
oh, I'm sorry, coach.
No, you
Uh,
get those players that are like you said, 5'2", crafty, everything else, but then you lose. You can't go in any corners. You can't do.
yeah.
You're not going to win any aerial balls. So
Well, the beauty of high school soccer and the danger of it is it does take a while to build chemistry with the team because kids are playing for different clubs. But if you have tall kids, you can always have set piece specialists on any high school team, and they're hard to defend. But when you have tall central defenders, it's so much easier to build your defense on a high school level because you can help take that away from the other team.
yeah, totally. Like with us, we have a couple set plays that we utilize our two center backs. Um, and it plays to our advantage pretty well. We work on heading a lot just because in crossing and finishing, but having those set pieces, it takes away. Like you send him in, everybody's like, oh God, here he goes. Like let's double team him, let's mark him, make sure he got a body on him, and then you can kind of run decoys, you can run other schemes that lets you have other players get in and maybe get some goals.
Yeah. Well, as a high school coach, and you coach at Loudoun as well, so you're a high level coach. Um, some high school coaches are more like managers. They have these talented kids, and they just they regulate playing time. But the kids, they have such high level coaches on the club that they don't really get in the technical, with these kids because they already have that. But you could do both. How do you handle that? Do you work with the kids on technical a lot? I guess maybe some of the kids that aren't quite as high level travel.
Yeah, I mean, we treat it like, I mean, these kids are going to college. I want to play in college, so they're really it's 5 days a week. You're trying to maintain your body and trying to go through the scheme of things, and you can always work on something, um, either being fitness or your touch, and we try to utilize that. Like you're going to have to maintain, and you're going to have 2, 3 games a week in college, and you have to go 100% every single time, and that's kind of the way we treat this program, sort of. Uh, we work on certain things, like you said, touch. Everybody gets our warm-ups are always touch oriented. So we're getting 200, 300 touches in 10, 15 minutes, and then we move into different schemes. This year is kind of different with these kids because it's such a high talent. I just try to keep them engaged. So I'm trying to play more, not and work on more tactics, like you said, set pieces, corner kicks, and then just playing and get them all in and comfortable with each other. They already are, but like having everybody else build in and putting them in different situations that we would face.
Yeah, and coach, we're gonna get back to your team because I want to give these kids get these kids some love. Generally, so I've gotten to know the they call it Region 6C and D just because my son played at Yorktown, and so I've been covering it pretty closely for 3 4 years, and I didn't get to know much about the Loudon kids, and I because they don't play, and it's unfortunate because obviously in lacrosse and in soccer the Riversides, the Stonebridges, football too. Um, they can play with the Class Six. It just depends on which division, which conference, which district and stuff. But unfortunately, it's a separate culture, separate league, and I find that unfortunate. And I'm sure as a coach with top level kids, you probably would love to knock heads with the Herndons and the McLeans and all these. Do the programs in Loudon have their own distinct styles? Like, do you know how Woodgrove is going to play? Do you know how Stonebridge is going to play? Have the teams developed their own styles, or is it just a matter of the kids, whatever the kind of kids you have, the coaches kind of put those kids into the best shape they possibly can?
Yeah, I think we do have Loudon has their own distinct style of playing. Like there's definitely some game planning and some scheming when it comes to playing teams. Like if we know we play Indy, Indy's always going to be a tough game. We play a certain style. Uh, when we play Woodgrove or Heritage, we know that we're going to have a little more fun and be able to attack on a heavy scale. And most of the teams will sit back against us and park the bus. So we try to build through that and figure that out. So yeah, there's a lot of planning, a lot of different schemes, but it's it is different with the 6A, 5A. Like we want to play 6A schools. We want to try to get those games and test ourselves and see if we can hang with those type of teams. And that comes down to scheduling and they are like with us, they have a big population, big 6A like schools everywhere. So they're always tied up with playing their own schools like we are playing with ours and the 4A programs. Um, for the style of play, yeah, I think all the 5A schools all want to play possession. They all want to play, keep the ball moving. They want to have it. They want to be in the attacking third most of the time. Um, it's just like us. I mean, the same. It's Indy, us, Light Ridge. All the top programs want to play possession based and try to. I wouldn't say run up scores, but just try to get as many goals as they can, knowing that's probably what it's going to come down to in the end.
Yeah. So, now I know when you played, things were different, and I know times when you coached, they were different. Do you wish they would kind of combine the regions again? At least the bigger schools can once again combine with the Fairfax County schools and play. Does that matter to you?
Yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to see that
Mhm.
you go against big schools. Like when I played, we went against McLean,
Mhm.
Langley,
Of course.
Osborne Park. We played all them. So we traveled further away to go play those games. And now with this, everything's just you're minimum 40 minutes away from every school. And you just stay in your county. Experiencing those parks and those going to those schools and seeing those kids and that those programs play, it helps and makes a big difference on players. It's just another. I mean, like you said, it's like travel soccer where you're on a bus, you're going with your team, you're going. It might be 45 minutes to an hour away, and that's your trip, and then you have that long ride home. It's so I would like to see them combined. Um, I like the opportunity to play those big schools. I'd like the opportunity to get see where we stand
Yeah, I
with
get it.
this.
Certainly, certainly lacrosse and soccer would belong with the very best. And the coaches themselves have told me that Riverside's the best team in there. Not to put too much pressure on you. So I did so I did cover the basketball up here this year. I got to know some of the teams. And basketball is one of those sports where you don't have to be there in the regular season very much because it generally comes down to the playoffs, and there's not that many elimination points. There's three big games, and then you may go to state and have a terrible year.
Yeah,
But I did watch a lot of the basketball up here, and I saw the talent level very high. But as you know, in the basketball, they tend to play the same teams over and over again in basketball. So I must have seen Heritage play like Broad Run and Heritage play Tuscarora like I felt like five times, over and over again. And they're all high level. There was energy in the gym, but it's just a little bit too familiar. Do you have that in Loudoun soccer? You play the teams over and over again?
yeah. So I think when we went to states last year, the year before, we faced Indy like five times, and it was for the district final, regional final, and then we went to states, and we didn't see each other in states, but we were there. It was tooth and nail all the way through. We faced them, like I said, four to five times that whole season, and you get to that where it's. I wish it was like we were talking about going to 6A schools, like broad teams. You'd pick up more of the either the South teams like in Hampton, Virginia Beach, face them earlier instead of later, or even go west to face some of those other schools. Um, but yeah, it's repetitive, and it's you get into a certain situation where if you're at a regional game and if you finish second or first, you're still going to states. So it's you have that conversation with the coach, like, all right, let's have some fun, let's try this. Like you kind of know no matter what the outcome, you're gonna move on, but you still want to beat that team and come in first. Like you still have that competitiveness, but it's also like, all right, well, we're still moving on. Even if it's win or loss, we're still got our chance. We're still gonna see what we can do next.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many podcast episodes I put together trying to get the BHSL to mix it up and make it more competitive. Because like in basketball, you have kids transferring to private schools. That doesn't really happen in soccer, but you have kids that don't play at all. The more competitive we can make our sport, the more attractive it is to top players, and I think, and also to crowds. These big games will be interesting for people. So I'm always tooting the horn, but I don't want to get you in trouble. So, Coach, as a player, let's talk a little bit about your career at Parkview. Would you have liked to coach the player Kieran Harris as well, or were you an easy player to coach?
I think I was a pretty easy player. I played wherever you put me. When I played varsity, or I played JV first year and then varsity the second year, and a kid went down, broken leg, and the kids that were ahead of me, the seniors, junior seniors, called me to go out and play fullback, and that's where I sat for 2 years. And we didn't make a great run. We weren't a great team. We were competitive, but was back then like we played McLean, Herndon. We played the bigger schools, and we did a lot more traveling, and we were competitive, but we didn't go far like I do with Riverside. But yeah, I mean, I would like to coach myself because I think I was a very versatile player and I could play anywhere. You could put me in any situation, I'd be fine. And that's what I like to see with these kids. Like I tell them all the time, if you coach says go play here, go play there.
Mhm.
Figure it out. It's your chance to play, shine. Um, but yeah, I would definitely like to coach myself. I think I would have been maybe a little bit better if I was coaching myself. I knew what I knew now than what then. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, your senior year, you guys made a run. I think I was reading an old article in the Washington Post. They moved you to striker, and you guys had quite a run.
yeah, that was I think we made it to district semis or finals
Mhm.
that year, and then got knocked out.
You like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that memorable though, those games? You still remember those games?
Sorta. It's all blur. It's so much soccer. Yeah, and yes and no. I remember being on the stadium. I remember being around I mean, most of it's memories with the teammates I had rather than the games. And that's what I think the fun part about high school is that you have that camaraderie with those kids, and I'm still in touch with a couple of them. Um, so I remember getting beat a lot. I remember scoring some goals, um, a lot of free kicks. So yeah, I remember some of them, not all of it.
So, yeah, my son's soccer career, they made a run to the state final and they had a great team. Um, I look back on that more than my own basketball career. First of all, we weren't very good and I wasn't very good, and he was a good player. But it's just those games as a parent, it's nothing more exciting to watch your son play soccer. He was a six, so you know it's lots of pressure on him at all times. One mistake and you blow it for your team. So
Yeah.
those memories are great. Who was the first coach that impacted you that really made a difference in your life as a player and also as a person?
Um, Shoot, that's a good question. Probably one of my strolling coaches. It's funny part I can't remember their names, but
Yeah.
um, just yeah, growing up playing in Sterling Park SYA, and yeah, SYSA, and being in that program, and um, being on those travel teams, and just wanting to coach, I guess, or not even at that time I wasn't really thinking about it. Coaching. The only reason I got into coaching now was a buddy of mine. I coached in Herndon with girls for a little bit, and buddy asked me to be an assistant, and then went through there. So probably it was a buddy I played with that became a coach was Andy Furtick, and he got me into coaching. And he's now in Jacksonville, a director of academies down in Jacksonville FC. So I think he's probably one that gave me the bug, uh, coaching with those teams and helping out. And then Chris Goodwin, he's the varsity coach. When I started at Riverside, he gave me a JV job.
Hmm.
And being around him, he was more of that kid that coach that was, he knew he had talent, but he was trying to keep them connected. And bonding was a big thing for him. And that's what I think a lot of the stuff that I do now is try to keep those kids connected, and make sure they have fun while they're playing at that high level, and make sure it's enjoyable. Like I said, if they can walk away and say they had an awesome 4 years at Riverside playing soccer, then that's why I've done my job.
Yeah. So coach, when you said you started with club and then you ended up JV coach for Chris Goodwin, I think at Riverside, and I think you guys
Yep.
won a state championship in 2017, coach.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you think about your coaching club and coaching high school, which do you prefer, or what are some of the differences between coaching club and coaching high school?
Uh, one one thing is that the high school is kind of like my team. Like I built it. You know, it's something I have control over, where I can, make decisions, and we can figure out, like you're pretty much the director of everything. You're handling the fundraising, spirit gear, spirit nights, all the other stuff that you're trying to handle. And with club, it's handled by somebody else, and you just have a team that you have those kids and you have to coach. Kind of, you don't get to say what they wear, what they um how they act, like how they represent the club. Like it's always changing the club, but the high school's mine. Like the high school is
Yeah.
my own thing, kind
Yeah.
of.
You have more ownership
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How about with your club team, you have more time with them, so you can play it. You can. It's easier to have a more intricate style of play with club than it would be for high school. But maybe not for your case because your players are so high level that you probably can do a lot of things that most high schools can't do. But do you find that difference, the fact that you have more time to implement stuff on club?
Yeah, yeah. You're like I said, I'm 2 days a week with these kids for months and ahead of the season. And then we're all through the whole season. Pretty much don't have any time off. We have maybe like the summer off, like a month and a half, 2 months off, and then you're back at it, and then a winter break for another 2 months. So 8 months out of the year, you're 2 weeks, 2 days a week, trying to implement schemes, understand players, get those players in the right position, and you have a little more of a let's say, I mean, yeah, you have a bond with these kids. You see them every 2 weeks. You see them for a long period of time. The high school, you see them for maybe 5 months, and you have 2 weeks before your first game, and you got to figure stuff out quick. Um, yeah, club and high school are two different animals.
Yeah. So a lot of the coaches that I've talked to, they wish we can spread the season out a little bit, do one game a week. Um, I actually kind of like the craziness of it because I do a lot of basketball and then I immerse myself in soccer and it's like fast and furious. And I mean, you have games for like, two months and a half, and all of a sudden you're graduation, you're at the state final. I actually enjoy that, but I'm not in the middle of it. Would you like to see the schedule spread out a little bit more, or do you like it the way it is now?
I kind of like the way it is now. You know, like I've talked about with these kids, like they're going to college. This is what they're going to experience, and we try to treat it that way.
That's right.
Um, so for them to get in the program, get going, you're start running right away, and then it's chaos. Then you got to maintain, and that's what we try to emphasize. I like this short, compact, 2 games a week. I don't like the 3 games. I don't like playing after spring break. That's never a good situation for us. The only loss we had last year was Tuskegee, and it was right after spring break.
Mm.
That's the only game I always am worried about. Um, but yeah, like I love that schedule. It's chaos. I like chaos. I can understand. I can live in that, and it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot for a fan of the game, and I just go to random games, so it's great. Almost every night of the week I can find a good match um, somewhere. Well, you won the state championship again in 2017. You were the JV coach, but I assume you're on the staff on the varsity. What was so special about that team that they were able to win it? And I think it was only the probably second or third year in school history, right?
Yeah, it was the second year of school. We started 2015, 15, 16, then 16, 17 is when we won it. Um, and that was a big collection of kids coming from Tuskegee, Stonebridge, that were talented at that school, but weren't getting playing time because those schools are big schools. And this was a 3A, so they had the opportunity to play to get in. And we had probably one of the best midfielders I've ever seen, Michael Zhang, play, and he won Player of the Year that year. And he scored the game winner when we played in, I guess it was Harrisonburg High School.
Mhm.
We beat him in the finals, 1-0. It was off free kick, and he was 89-minute cramping, hits a banger, and we tried defense seals the deal, and we're screaming right on the field. Um, yeah, like that is. I think that's probably the stuff that you think about.
Yeah, yeah. Coaches, you changed a lot when you became the head coach.
Uh, did it change a lot? Yeah, I mean, when I first became the varsity head coach, we had COVID. So uh, that senior year, I had all those kids that were excited for me to be the head coach. I was excited to be I had 19 seniors. That was supposed to be that was the last year of these kids that were freshmen in 2017 that won that state title. And this is the year they were going to prove it. And they were bought in, and COVID hit, and nothing happened. And
Mhm.
then restart the next year with like 3 seniors and a couple kids. So yeah, stuff's still the same. I try to. I mean, for me, being a JV coach to a varsity coach is definitely different. I think that I very similar to what I was in 2017, but then with the talent. Definitely, I would like to see that 2017 play this team and see who would stand.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be a great match. Uh,
Yeah.
Coaches, has your coaching evolved a lot through the years? Because let's like 2010, when everyone's playing little ball, and then it seems like there's always a trend in soccer. Has your coaching changed a lot with all the trends?
Yeah, we always look at different things, different schemes, different formations we can run as with the kids we have. I think when I first started, I thought I needed to be really technical and run drills and passing schemes and touches and you know get the kids under control to play how I wanted them to play and how I think they should have played. And then as I've gotten through the time and the coaching staff I have now, um, it's probably one of the best coaches I've ever had. That we bounce things off each other, and we always all of us are always looking at different things. And we're always watching, so we come up with like maybe shifting. We play a 4-3-3, and sometimes we might shift into a 3-5-2, or even go like a traditional 4-4-2. Um, and now when I'm getting older with these kids that I get that with the high school talent they don't need the technical. They just need to get together and play. They need to understand each other and the roles that they play and bond and understand and have a good time. So we are playing a lot more. We're not so we're it's always going to be technical. We're going to get our touches, but I'm going to play more. I'm going to get them into situations where, you know, they might be uncomfortable and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, with your island roots, I would expect to see some 4-4-2 out of you, coach.
Yeah.
So, so before we get to this year, let's talk about over the years. You've had some close calls. You guys have gotten far in the state playoffs. It seems like Cox is the bogey team. One of the problems with our system is not only do you play the same teams over and over again during the regular season, you tend to see the same teams in the postseason. It happens in 6A, six 6A basketball. They always play Oscar Smith or Lansdowne in basketball because those are the two really only teams in the other part of the state of class six. But I assume it's probably similar to soccer. You end up seeing the similar teams every year. But tell us about the Cox rivalry.
Yeah, they have our number. They've had our number for the last 3 years. Like when we had state finals at Barwoods, their hometown, they we battled. We had chances to win it and tie it, and we couldn't finish, and they beat us 2-1. Caught us on a counterattack. Like I said, we shifted, tried to press, we shifted to a 3-5-2, and they played the long ball and got us, and we just were unlucky. And then the next year, facing him in the semifinals for states, um, them going so again catching us on a counter and beating us 2-1. Same similar scenario as we did, uh, and then facing him last year, going to PKs. We had a better year last year. I think it was we were a better team than we were before. Same as them, they've had the same group of kids playing all 3-4 years with them. We were very very similar. Um, and then just getting in PKs, and that's the one thing I won't lose on this year is PKs. That won't happen. Well, I would definitely have that locked in and sorted before we get there. Uh, yeah, they just had a number, and that's a good group of kids. That coach down there, man, he's got them dialed in, just kind of like how I think that's what we have. And he just had a number 3 years in a row. That should have been our state titles those 2 years. They won it last year and the previous year. That should have been ours.
Yeah. I mean, college and high school soccer, there is an unbelievable amount of games that are decided on PKs in the postseason. It's just so you have to be able to win those games.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it could be a great team. You're going to lose, and you might lose 1-0 or 2-1. And that's it. What is a good strategy for PKs? What do you try to do? Because obviously you probably have a hard time getting film of the other team and tendencies.
Yeah, and we try to watch games on networks where we ask other coaches that we're, on a good level with to ask if they face that team, if they go on PKs, um, and what they saw and try to, scout them. Yeah, PKs, man, it's just one of the things where you got to spend the time doing them, last 10, 15 minutes of practice, set up game scenario, you're down, you got to make a PK, and you just got to hit your spot. I think after last year, I didn't change my lineup going into the PKs. I kept it the same. Cox changed their lineup and they went different. And I think that's what made the difference. Um, or I should have substituted some players some players that, wanted to take them, but they didn't at that time and they wanted to step up. There's always scenarios in my head. I'm like, I should have done this, done that, done this. I should change this. But that's the one thing I probably think if we get into that scenario, that will be what I'm looking at and trying to understand and see.
Do you take volunteers or do you go by how good they are in practice? Or because usually in the games you probably have one or two take most of your PKs, maybe three. You might let the person who drew the foul take the penalty.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you go by practice or you take volunteers? How do you handle that?
So we go by practice, and we set it up like a game. Like we have your 5 or your 10 and your 10, and we pick out um, who's taking the best PK, and we try to go that route. And then it really does come down to kids that want to take it. I know in the big scenario, big games like that, when it matters, there's a lot of kids that are not that confident and they don't want to step up, even if they are a good PK taker. They just don't want that pressure. So we kind of just let the kids, I wouldn't say volunteer. we have a couple kids we pick out. We say, you're taking this, and we need two more who wants to step up, and let them see if they can handle the pressure.
Do
And
you think it's a good? Oh, I'm sorry, Coach.
no, you're good.
Do you think it's a good rule in high school that you have sets of five and you can do it again, or do you wish it was more like pros where all 11? So you're going to have some guys who are not used to shooting PKs.
Yeah, I think that's what bit me. I kept my five. My first five, my
Oh
second
yeah,
five were
you
the
did
same.
mention it. Yeah.
So I would change that. I would love to see the 11. 11 on the field, starting five, then you just rotate down. Then you get to the keepers, and if they make it, like I would like to see that. That's how college is, I think,
Yeah, I
where
think
you
so.
have to go through all 11 on the field and then
Yeah,
start
I mean, the
over.
whole team has to be in the decision. You can't, my son's his junior year, they beat South Lakes in the regional final. It was a brutal rivalry. I mean, these teams they really hated each other. A lot of it was the Yorktown crowd was so nasty to South Lakes, but it went down to there was 23 penalties taken in a row that were made. All 23 were made, and my son was not one of the ones who took a penalty. And I remember I asked him afterwards, did you volunteer and do you wish you would have taken one? He's like, Dad, they made 23 in a row. What if I would have been the only one who missed it? There's no way in the world that, looking back, if they would have picked me, I would have done it, but I'm glad they didn't. So,
Yeah, the pressure it gets to you, and then I still I like making like the uncomfortable is the comfortable, right? That's the new standard. Like if you're comfortable being uncomfortable, you're good, right? So like those kids that missed the PKs last year, I kind of joke with them this year. Like I kind of dig in, like, well, maybe you won't take a PK, or maybe it's like we won't lose on PKs, like, and just kind of have a joke, like let them understand, like, yeah, it happened, we're past it, we'll see what happens. Like you just we'll see what happens next time. Like if you're comfortable, you're comfortable. If you're not, you're not.
yeah.
We'll go there.
Yeah. But I don't think a player ever forgets missing a big penalty. I think it stays with you for many
Oh
years.
yeah.
So that's the way it is. Well, Coach, I know a little bit about your team because when I posted my last coaches interview, I had a Riverside student fan, whatever. He let me know that I should be talking about Riverside more, and I explained to him my kids go there, and I'd love to. But he let me know exactly who I'm missing by not going to the games. So let's talk about some of your players here. You got John Balke, who I believe was first team All Met last year, or at least maybe his brother was first team All Met a few years ago. But
So
John Balke,
his
what's that?
yeah, his brother was first team All Met and state player of the year last year, or the year before.
Yeah. Well, John follows me on Instagram. Shout out to John. He's a senior midfielder going to James Madison. You got Damon Burney, who I believe we mentioned earlier. He's one of your proper UK or Island center backs. William Mary signee or a committee. Cam Farrell is a senior going to Virginia Tech. He's a goalkeeper, I believe.
Hmm.
And then we have Andres Lopez. I believe he was all Met last year, Coach. That name's
He was first
familiar.
team All Met
Yeah.
last year.
He's a midfielder going to Catholic. You got Ali Ageta, senior.
Aguero, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't.
How do you pronounce
Uh, now you're gonna put me on the spot.
it?
Argueta.
Argueta, that's right. He's a midfielder. He's going to Mary Washington. Great program. They got as much Division One talent as probably half the Division One schools. Grant Thomas, senior midfielder. He's going to F&M. I didn't know what college it is, Coach.
I think it's Franklin.
Franklin and Marshall. Franklin and Marshall.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Grant. I should have known that. And then Cam Thomas, he's your underclassman junior. First of all, it's a very senior laden team. Wouldn't you say, Coach?
Yes. I think my starting lineup is 8 or 9 of them are all seniors. I have two juniors probably starting, and the rest are all seniors. Then I have a handful of seniors on the bench. I think I have 13 seniors. Yeah, I'm a heavy talent. There's a couple other players like Mateo Rodriguez. He's going to William and Mary, or not William and Mary. He's going to Mary Washington with Ale. And then Johnny's he's going to George Mason
Okay.
this year, or next year. Yeah, like I said, I have a talent that, I don't think any school has this much talent, or this many people being committed to go play after high school, unless you get into that 6A programs where like the bigger schools. But I think around here, I'm pretty much the heavy hitter when it comes to this college commits.
I don't think you have too many schools that are going to have 3 Division One players on one team. You may, a lot of these teams have lots of kids that can play Division three if they want to, and most kids decide they don't want to play
Right.
anymore because their whole life has been soccer before. But I don't think I've ever seen three D1 players on a team. Do you have so many seniors that you have some juniors on JV this year?
I don't have any juniors on JV.
Well,
All sophomores, freshmen. All juniors that I took are on varsity. So I think I have more. I think I have 12 seniors, 13 juniors, and one sophomore
yeah,
on varsity.
yeah. Well, so far this year, Coach, your games, you scored some goals, but you did have one 2-0 game, which is nice. What have you learned about your team this year so far?
Uh, we're patient. We could be a little more patient. We're patient, but we're trying to build. Um, and we are comfortable on the ball. Like we spent most of those games, we've been in the attacking third, and we haven't seen a whole lot of pressure from anybody. Especially when you have, like I said, Damon Burnley and Luke Stavro in the back, just cleaning up stuff. And then keeping possession with Ale in the middle and Johnny and Mateo up top, and just having those connections and being patient and waiting for those opportunities to come. Um, Still trying to figure and work out some things, formation wise and players fitting them in. So like those 2-0 games, we started subbing and realized that it's going to be like a scrimmage for us, kind of. And I think the other coach at that, I think it was 2-0 against County. They knew they were gonna. The talk was that they knew they weren't going to win, so they kind of parked the bus and treated it like a scrimmage and worried about the next game. And I think that's what we get a lot. We'll have a lot this year where teams know they're going to just try not to concede a lot and counter us if they can. So yeah, this year for me, it's building patience and understand that this is not how everything's going to be all year round. We're going to get into tough games, and if I move stuff around and just kind of deal with it, like be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Might play out of position or might have somebody in there that's not normally who you're used to playing with, and understand their ins and outs or their habits, kind of, and how they play, their style, and you got to figure that out.
That's going to be on your tombstone one day, Coach. It's going to be the uncomfortable being comfortable
Yeah,
being uncomfortable. That's the that's the Coach Allen way. So look, Coach, I know in basketball winning the districts is important because you're automatically in the regionals. I don't think it's probably the end of the world for you guys because even if you had to play one game, it will probably be against a team you'd be heavily favored. But how important are the district games to you? And do you expect once again the Briar is going to be tough and Indy are going to be tough this year?
yeah. The district games are tough. I think I would rather. I like having that number one seed and getting that bid to regionals right away and getting that out of the way. Um, but then it comes down to districts it's tournament. Like anybody can show up, right? And we did it, I think 3-4 years ago, right after COVID. We were not that great. These kids were freshmen playing varsity, and Briar Woods was the number one team at the time, and we knocked them out of the district final or district tournament. We beat them 4-2, and we just pressed them and we just went after them. And Briar thought that they was going to be a walk in the park. They were just going to walk all over us because I think they beat us 2 weeks earlier 7-2. So districts is important because anybody can show up and kids get pumped for districts to be able to knock somebody out and be done, have their season over with. I think that's what we did that time against Briar. But now I don't mind getting that on, like I said, I don't mind getting the bids or regionals, but I would like to play districts and just keep playing and not have time off.
Yeah. Do you expect Indy and Tusky is not non-district, but do you expect Indy and Potomac Falls, who you tied last year as well, and Briar to be tough this year?
Yeah, I think Pot Falls is off to a good run. They are undefeated as well, and same as Indy. I think the Indy actually just lost to Woodgrove. Um, all Indy's always going to be a good school. They have a good coach. They're always going to have talent. They'll be in the right position. They're always going to be one of our rivals. Tusky, like that 4A group, they're going to be really, really good. If I know they have a lot of injuries right now. A couple key players, key positions. But they're always up for a challenge. They're always like last year. They beat us 2-0, and it was right after spring break, and the kids were ecstatic that they won. It was the World Cup, and I still hear it from the kids because most of them play club at Loudoun. so I see them. So they always, you know, throw a little dig in when they see me. Uh, and they always tell me that they're ready this year. They're going to do the same thing again. So yeah, I think they're always good. Everybody's going to be up for a challenge now that, we kind of got a spot on our, bullseye on our back. Everybody wants to take us down.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I'm so excited to see how it's going to work out. I live 100 yards from the school, so I'll walk down, check it. Last year I came to a game. I got there and there was a lacrosse. It was a playoff game, and there was a cross net in the middle of the field. I'm like, I must have had the wrong night. And then I went home, and then I did realize that the game was supposed to be there, but there'd been a delay in the lacrosse game for weather, and they kind of backed you guys up. So I should have stayed around, but I remember I was so confused that night. Um, Last question for you, Coach, and this has been great. Loudoun's got a lot of energy with soccer now. You got the pro club, the Loudoun United out here. And I think there's some semi-pro type clubs as well I'm hearing about. How does that affect your job as a high school coach? Is Loudon and Leesburg building the soccer culture?
I would think so. I think with all the clubs around here, like you have Loudoun, you have the NBA. My kids are in Loudoun, and my daughter plays for NBA. You have Revolution. You have Fowler's somewhat close. Not really. They're not really in. They used to be, but not really anymore in Loudoun. Um, you have the DC United Academy. You have the Loudoun United. You have it's. I think it is becoming a soccer central area. You got DC Power, which is another girls program around here. That's a semi-pro team. Um, so yeah, you have it's nice to see. I like it, and the opportunity to go watch a semi-pro team play on any night, or even go watch a training session with DC United, or go watch there's always something like you said. There's something to watch somewhere every night. You can go do something, watch soccer, and I definitely think that culture is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Like clubs are popping up or moving into this area or trying to get in this area. Uh, the talent. I think you have talent here, and that's a good thing for us, especially in the high school level.
Yeah. Do the kids here have the same opportunities the kids would have who live closer to the city? Like I remember I talked to DT last year, and I believe he told me at one point he played for Bethesda. That must have been a complicated commute every day.
Yeah,
It's too bad the Point of Rocks is no longer open. But do the kids here have the same opportunities as kids closer to the city?
yeah. I think you do because it's really up to the parents if they want to travel,
Mhm.
and if they want to put the time in. Like I said, DT went to Bethesda. I knew that when he left high school, he told me about he was going to go to Bethesda, go to MLS Next, try out there and play there, and he got an offer. And it was leave right after school, get picked up, head straight down there. And it was an hour and 15, hour and 20 to get down there, and then like an hour and a half to get back. And his dad was committed to taking him, so that was the process that he went through. And I think uh, John Volke, he plays in Arlington, so he's an hour trek down to Arlington to practice and play. It really is. If the parents are committed to having these kids have the opportunity, then they can make it work. They make it work. And I think around here, you tend to have kids uh, reach out and try to experience different things and say that they like this coach here, or they think they have a better opportunity to get scouted for college here, and they'll go travel and they'll make it work. Um, yeah, I think they have the same opportunities. I think there's definitely, like I said, it really just comes down if you're committed to traveling and making it work.
Do you think you have to travel though? Do you think also like DT and John John is friends with my guy Joe Morgita? Do you think they could just get the same experience if they stay here and play for Loudon or one of the clubs? Do you think it's necessary for kids to make the effort to find the right fit?
Um, I think it's an effort to find the right thing. I think you definitely need to look at what suits you best and how that fits you and that club's playing style or that club's connections. And that's where I think a lot of stuff come down to. You get scouted. I mean, we're going through this with my daughter right now. She's at County and she plays for NBA, and they just had the big mix up from going from ECNL to GA. So everybody's jumped ship trying to find an ECNL team. And we're staying with NBA just because we understand that the coaches understand her and they know her. And we might have the best opportunity with them to get looked at and be scouted. I think that's what it really comes down to is kind of what can you do for me now
Hmm.
scenario. And that's good and bad in some senses, but I think that's what it is now. Like if you have this connection and you can get me here and you can talk to them and I can see them, then that's where I need to be.
It's a mess, all these leagues, but
Oh man.
that's for another podcast. I just,
Yeah.
when my son played, there was CCL was just starting. So basically it was NCSL. So all the teams were there and you're trying to get, you're trying to go to the top promotion to the top league. And it was so exciting. And then you wanted to avoid relegation. And it had so much energy to it. And, from CCNL and then all the other leagues, it's even since he stopped playing club, 3 or 4 years ago. It's changed so much in the 3 or 4 years. It's just, I mean, we should have one league. It's like they have in Europe and then you move to the top. I don't know why it has to be so complicated, but anyway, this is about Riverside. Coach, it's been great meeting you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, congratulations on an amazing start. Whoever the YouTube guy recommended I do this interview, I was going to get around to it anyway, but I'm glad he helped me prepare for it and got me. But I promise you, I'll get there soon, and I'll come by and shake your hand, and if you don't mind, and introduce myself in person. But
Yeah.
yeah, but until then, I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me.
No, man, it's been a pleasure. This is I like talking about soccer. I like talking about Riverside. Like I said, it's fine. I just love it.
It's great. We'll roll side, coach, and best of luck this year.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, coach. Nice meeting
Bye.
you. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.